So my name is Jay, 27 years old, and I suffer from Still's disease. I'm in the Navy, so I don't know if anybody had the question whether or not it was still possible to serve. Granted, I've already been in and serving when I got diagnosed, but for the longest, since I've been diagnosed, I've been wanting to, make a video to, and document my journey. But I just haven't had the chance to, and now I got some downtime. So I figured between, me being a dad, being in the military, trying to get my situation straight as far as me being suffering from Still's disease, wanted to get everything straight and in order, and then document everything. But I wish I could have documented the journey along from February until now. But hey, I back feel you. So back in November, my palm started itching uncontrollably. Couldn't understand why, and couldn't understand why. So I wound up it was to the point where my palms were like cracking too, like the skin on my palms was cracking. It was crazy. I wish I had my other phone so I could show pictures of it, but I don't. So I'm stationed in California. My aunt died New Year's Day. My aunt passed away, and I went home to the funeral. And going home to the funeral, your mom, she cares about your health. Your family cares about your health. So my mom was like, you really need to go to the doctor for your hands, for them, peeling and scratching. That's not normal and things like that. So when I got home, I went to the doctor. And I was like, hey, my palms keep itching. They've been itching since November. I really don't know what's wrong. And they said to the third. So he gave me some cream to use. I took this cream. Didn't really do much, but I took it. And in taking the cream, about a week, maybe 2 weeks later. So January 1st, I got back like the 3rd, 4th of January. So maybe about a week later, or 2 weeks later, I go back to the doctor, and I say, hey, my fingers swelled, my thumb and my middle finger. I believe those were the two fingers that swelled, like just really swollen. And I said, I don't know if it's something from the medicine, because my fingers so peeled and cracked. Maybe the medicine's getting in and my fingers are interacting with it the wrong way. And it was a Friday, and if you know military medicine, you know how that goes. So they referred me to the hospital, and so I went to the hospital, and the hospital doc told me, the emergency room doc told me, he was like, it's probably just an allergic reaction to the medicine. Stop taking the cream that the doctor gave you, and here, take these anti-inflammatories, and check back with me on Monday, but the swelling should go down by Sunday. So I was like, okay. So I took the anti-inflammatories as I was supposed to. Took them every day for that weekend, and every finger I have swelled up. So that obviously wasn't a problem. So I went back to my doctor on Monday, and my doctor was like, oh, well, that's no good. This, that, to the third. A bunch of conversation and things like that. So now it's the 3rd week of January. It's about the 3rd week of January. It's the third week of January. Close to the last week. It's the 3rd week, okay? 3rd week, maybe the 4th week. My time's really bad. Like I said, I should have documented as it was happening. But so I go to the doc. He's like, I really don't know what's going on. This, that, to the third. And backtrack. So starting in about November, December time frame, I start getting these fevers at night. I start getting these fevers that just out of nowhere they come. I'm shivering, I'm shaking, I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm sweating, and I got a fever. And I would go to the doctor and I say, hey, I was running a fever last night. Then the doctor would be like, well, you don't have a fever now, so there's nothing we can do about it. So yeah, that's how that went. So okay, so fast forward back. So the doc was like, well, let's just do some blood work, just to check, this, that, to the third, see what it is, because you might be having a allergic reaction or something like that to this effect. No, you know what happened? I'm sorry, like I said, I should have documented as it was happening. I went to urgent care one night because I had a fever and I had this rash on my thighs. My rash came on my thighs from my Still's disease. And it would come on my arms and on my face sometimes, but it was more prevalent on my thighs. So I had this rash and I had the fever and my fingers were really swollen. So I went to urgent care. And the doctor there, she prescribed me 2 EpiPens. And she was like, you know, you have an allergic reaction. It's a common allergic reaction, you know, this, that, to the third. And I was like, well, you know, I've never been allergic to anything in my whole life. And she was like, well, you know, it's common for it to happen and this, that, to the third later on in life and things like that. I was like, okay, whatever. You're the doctor on that. So I wound up going back to the doctor, because whenever you go to an outside doctor, you have to go back to the military doctor. So I go back to the doctor, see him, and that's what made him give me the blood work, because he thought I was allergic to something, and I don't know what the blood work was going to do. So he gives me this blood work, and I was going to Vegas for Super Bowl weekend, so that Thursday before the Super Bowl, I'm leaving, I'm in the airport, I'm in LAX, and I get a call on my cell phone. And one thing about me, if it's work and I'm off work, I don't believe in answering my phone. So I saw the number, and when it was just a number from base, it wasn't necessarily work, but it was just a number from base. So I didn't answer, and it turned out to be his office. And they left me a message. They said, hey, 91 Jefferson, you know, your blood work came back. Everything looked normal, but Doc wants to talk to you. You know, they never call you if everything's normal. So I'm like, all right, whatever, you know. They said everything's normal, cool, no problem. So I give them a call. They answer. They say, well, Doc left for the day, but your blood work is, he just wants to talk to you about your blood work. I was like, okay, cool, no problem. I was like, well, I'm on leave right now. I'm in Vegas. And when I get back on Monday, I have to go to San Diego for a class for 2 days. So I won't be able to make it to the office until Wednesday. And they was like, okay, no problem, Doc, I'll see you as soon as you get here Wednesday. So I'm like, okay. So I go to Vegas. We get there Thursday. I run the fever that night, so I'm in the room. Friday, I run the fever, I'm swollen. I'm in the room. Saturday, I'm able to do a little bit more during the day, but that night, you know, I just put up with it and things like that. But still ran the fever, but just put up with it. And, you know, because we went to the Keith Sweat concert, we partied a little, not party, but just, you know, was at the casino, and, you know, didn't want to be a party pooper. So, you know, so I enjoyed myself, but was sick and ran that fever. And then Sunday came, and that was the day that started my first, I'm guessing the fevers and everything are the beginning of episodes already. Like I said, I've been running fever since like December sometime. But that Sunday was, I say, my first episode. So that Sunday, you know, wake up, we go to breakfast, and at breakfast I'm cold. I'm in this casino, and I'm like freezing. I got on like a jacket, and I'm freezing. And that's the whole time I'm freezing, I'm sitting there. My girlfriend's mom, she treats us to breakfast, and so we're eating breakfast, and I'm like shaking. And they're like, "What's wrong? Is it that cold? Are you underneath the AC?" I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "But it's freezing in here." So like I'm like really shaking. So they was like, "You know, well, we can switch." And I was like, no, it's no problem. Let's get to the third. So really freezing. So I have to go to the bathroom. I've been good this whole weekend. I have to go to the bathroom. And so when I get up, I can barely move my legs. So it was like bad. So I'm freezing. I can barely move my legs. I can barely walk. So I get up, go to the bathroom. I come back, and I just tell them, I say, well, look, you know, we had already checked out of our hotel. We were going to watch the Super Bowl at South Point. We were staying at Treasure Island, so we were checked out of our hotel already. And we were just waiting for the Super Bowl. Then after the Super Bowl, we were flying back to LA. So they was like, well, you can go lay down in the room. And I was like, nah, I'm okay. I'd just rather sit on the floor and just listen. So I go to the sports book and I just sit down and I'm just watching sports until the Super Bowl starts. Killing time until the Super Bowl starts. So, whole time I'm just shaking, cold, I'm freezing. So, I wind up, Super Bowl starts, you have to go, I don't know if you ever been to South, any of you guys ever been to South Point, wind up, you got to go up these stairs or escalator. And I think the escalator was broke. So, you had to take the stairs. And I could not walk for the life of me. Like, it was horrible. So I'm like taking it one step at a time, just that to the third. It was horrible. It was the worst thing in the world. So we get into the room where you watch, to the ballroom, the conference room where you watch the Super Bowl at. And watching the Super Bowl, I just start like, man, it is freezing. Like tears starting to foam up in my eyes. Man, it's bad. So, and I'm like, I want to put my hood on, but we inside the building, so I didn't do it. But I was like really freezing in there, and just had a fever, and like my whole, now like this part of my face is red, and man, it was bad. Like I couldn't move, I couldn't bend my hands, but they were cold, so it was horrible. So halftime comes, we gotta go because we gotta go to the airport to catch our flight. Me and my girlfriend. So we go downstairs. Her mom comes with us because she sees how I'm doing, and you know, things like that. And we get on the shuttle to the airport. And when we get on the shuttle, you know, I can barely get up the stairs to walk, and my legs, my thighs, everything's hurting. So I go to the sit down, and I just lay my head on her shoulder, and I'm like basically in tears because it was that much pain. It hurt. I have a fever. I'm cold. I'm hot. I'm sweating. I'm shivering. My whole body aches. I can't move. It was like the worst. So I'm just basically in tears. So when we get to the airport, I stand up, and again, I can't take this pain. So they wind up getting me a wheelchair. They wheel me to the back, and they sit me down, and you know, I get the bypass security and everything. I guess that was the cool part. So I get the bypass security. And you know, her mom kept saying, you know, well, you really shouldn't go to that class in San Diego because, you know, this, that, to the third. But if anybody's dealing with this, ever been in the military, you know, the military, they're gonna be like, well, you just took leave in Vegas, and then you saying that you can't go do some work, you can't go do your job. So nah, that don't even sound right. So I was like, nah, I gotta suck it up. I gotta go. So I'm thinking like it's just a one-day thing. So I take some medicine. We get on the plane. I go to sleep. I wake up. We in LA. We get to LA. We pick my son up. We drive down to San Diego that night. We go to San Diego, check into the hotel on base, and I just get into the bed, you know, and go to sleep. I wake up for the class the next day. The best thing about it, I don't know, I mean, God was looking out for me. That class was only an hour, 2, maybe 3 hours at the longest, but it was like about 2 hours each day. So, but I had to suck it up, go to class, put my uniform on, suck it up, go. I sat in the corner, I just shivered the whole time. This fever stopped. It didn't go away. It stayed the entire time the whole time throughout the episode. So I could barely like zip my pants up. I couldn't grip anything because everything was swollen. So I would come home, I'm shivering, and I slept literally like, the class started at 8. We was out by 10, and I slept from 11 to the next day of the class. And then went back to the class. Same thing happened. I came back, check out. That Tuesday was at like 4, something like that, 1, whatever it was. I came back from the class and just went to sleep until checkout, and then we left. We went to we got back on to Point Mugu. I went home, just slept, went to work the next day. So I get up, go to work, and then I go to the doctor because I have to go check in. It's Wednesday, so I have to go check into the doctor about my blood results and everything. So now I'm still suffering, but the fever goes away. So They take my temperature. It's like 98 or 99, something normal though. So I go talking to the doc. He was like, well, your test results came back and you tested high for a person that has either lupus or rheumatoid arthritis. I'm not a specialist. I don't know what it is. So we have to refer you to a rheumatologist. Here's your consult number. They can probably get you in, just call and set up an appointment, and you can find out what it is in like a week or two after you see the rheumatologist. So I'm like, okay, whatever, find out in a week or two. So I told him about everything that happened in Vegas. He was like, well, your temperature they took this morning was normal. So there's really nothing I can do about that. I can't recreate a fever. So if you don't have a fever now, I can't really look at all your symptoms. And if you don't have them now, and he was like, the best I can do is get you that consult. So I'm like, okay. So he asked me a question. He was like, hey, is your throat sore? And I was like, yeah, in the morning my throat's very sore. Another sign of Still's disease, a sore throat. So I'm like, in the morning time, and but it goes away. He was like, you might have mono. Literally, this is what this guy says to me. He's like, yeah, you might have mono. I was like, the kissing disease? He was like, yeah. I said, so instantly I'm like, man, who my girlfriend been kissing other than me? Nah, just joking. But so he says, go down to the lab and get a test drawn for mono. So he put it in. I go to the lab, I wait, and that's like the best thing that ever happened to me, because I literally don't know if I could have did another week or two of feeling like that. So I go to the lab, I'm waiting, I get seen, and then this time I start to feel like crap again. My fever come back, I'm shivering again, I go pale, and I'm a light-skinned guy, but I was pale. My eyes got low. Everything was bad. So the nurse who was seeing me, he was like, nah, something wrong with you. That's not right. Let me take your temperature. My temperature went up to like 103, 104, something like that. And so he was like, oh, no, something's wrong. So he went back to the doc. He was like, hey, doc, this guy, something's wrong with him. You did his blood results. Something was wrong. And look at him now. So the doc came, he looked, and he was like, look, like I said, I'm not a specialist. I don't want to pass you off to the next person, but I don't know what's going on. Go to the emergency room. So I go to the emergency room. I get there. Again, I can barely walk. I can't move. It sucks. I had to go pick up my girlfriend for her to take me to the emergency room so I wouldn't be driving. So by the time I get there, she drops me off to the front. It hurts to get out of the car. I get out. I go in. So again, I'm having to tell my story all over again to the doctors at the emergency room. I get there at 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock. I get to the emergency room. They take my temperature. They draw blood. It was like, well, why did they send you here? That's what they keep asking. Why did they send you? Why did they send you? And I was like, because they said my results came back on the blood test they did last week. My results came back as me testing high for people, with the same levels that people test when they have rheumatoid arthritis or lupus. And when this happened today, he'd rather be safe than sorry. So he was like, well, I still don't get why they sent you here. He's a doctor. He should have just blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So he's like, tell me your symptoms again. And like, for some reason, this guy didn't believe what I was saying. I was like, well, I've been running a fever, but only at night for this, like the past, 4, maybe 5 weeks. He was like, so you had a fever for 4 or 5 weeks and nobody's done nothing about it? I said, but it's only at night. So the doctor said if he can't recreate it, he can't do nothing. And I was like, my joints hurt, everything hurt, this, that, to the third, and blah, blah, blah. He was like, I just think you got the flu or something. I'm thinking it's just the flu. So I'm like, all right, whatever, you the doctor. So I'm in the emergency room from 11 to about maybe 6, 7, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7. They do more tests. They do blood. They do this. And then they come in at about 6 or 7. They come in and they say, we got to keep you. We got to admit you in because we can't figure out what it is. If you're telling the truth about having fevers for 4 to 5 weeks, that's something wrong. That's a problem. We need to figure it out, and this, that, to the third. So now the head emergency room doctor comes down, this lady, Nice lady. She says, look, what you got going on, it sounds like a rheumatology issue. She said, but we can't rule out viral infection. I mean, not viral, but infectious disease or cancer. So she was like, I can almost certainly tell you it's not an infectious disease. She said, I'm about 83% sure it's not cancer. And when she said that, you know, that stuck in my head, because I was like 83%. I was like, so it's still a 17% chance I got cancer. Like, that doesn't put me at ease. So then she was like, but I'm almost like 100% sure that it's a rheumatoid issue. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't know what that is. All I've ever heard of was saw the commercials of rheumatoid arthritis. And I'm like, man, I'm too young to have arthritis. So they keep telling me, it's either lupus or rheumatoid arthritis. It's either lupus or rheumatoid arthritis. So what they keep saying to me. So I get admitted to the hospital. My mom flies out from Virginia. You know, so then the next morning, they was like, the next morning, the doctor comes in from infectious disease. He comes in. So I had to see 3 doctors the next day. It was the infectious disease doctor, the rheumatologist, and the cancer doctor. And I only saw 2 doctors. So the infectious disease doctor comes in. He asks me some questions. He do a test. He's like, nah, you don't have an infectious disease. I don't know if that's good news or bad news. So I'm like, all right, well, I take it as good news. So the rheumatologist comes in, and like, man, I love this doctor to death. Dr. Gita Fatimi in Camarillo, California. She is great. She's helpful. She answers your questions. She calls you. Best rheumatologist. I never only had one rheumatologist, but the best rheumatologist you can think of. So she asked me like maybe 10-15 questions, and after those 10-15 questions, she says, you have Still's disease. That's what it is. She said, I got to do more tests, but I can tell you right now you got Still's disease. She do her test and she confirmed it or whatever. So that I got diagnosed on the 9th. So she started me on some medicine later on that night. She started me on prednisone, like 40 milligrams, something like that, later on that night. So it didn't work, but she started me on it. She started the treatment for it, and you know, she answered your questions, and she was very optimistic in her treatment, and you know, when she first told me about it, you know, first thing that instantly went through my head was my son. So I was like, dang, man, am I going to be here for my son? She was like, nah, people live a normal life with it and this, that, to the third, and blah, blah, blah. It's just about getting you on the right treatment plan. And I was like, okay. And I was like, am I going to die? She was like, nah, you're not going to die. I mean, one day you're going to die, but you're not going to die because of the disease, most likely. And then I asked her, was it a cure? And she told me, no, it was no cure. I deal with it the rest of my life. And that made a tear come out my eye, because it's like, yo, I'm 27 and I got to deal with something for the rest of my life. But whatever, you know, I'm not going to cry what was me. I got a sister that died of cancer, and there's people out there that got 10 times worse diseases than what I got. So I'm not going to cry about what I got going on. So yeah, so she diagnosed me. She gave me the medicine, started me on the treatment. And then as soon as I got discharged, I went back. I got discharged the next day after, you know, she felt like some of the swelling had went down and things like that, and the fever was gone away. Once the fever was gone away for 2 days in a row, they let me go home. So I went home. I went to see her that Monday. That Monday, you know, she started to tell me, one thing I like about her, she tells me the truth, but she also tries to keep me very optimistic, because in the hospital it was like, oh, you know, I can get this under control in a week. She didn't say a week, but she was just like, I can get this under control. So then when I saw her on Monday, she was like, oh, you know, most people would have responded to this. So, you know, you got a pretty, you know, a bad case of it. So I'm going to have to up your dosage. So, I mean, it's to the point where I can't walk. I'm waking up in the morning, and like when I wake up, I can't move my legs. Like, not it hurt to move my legs, but I can't move my legs because I couldn't get out of bed. It was the worst. So she was like, yeah, if that's all that's happening, you know, you're having a bad case. Most people would have responded to the medicine within a few days, so we're going to have to up your medicine. So they take me from 40 milligrams to 60. And then I wound up going from 60 to 80. And then 80 was consistent from the end of February until I just started winging from it in May. And then sometime in March, she gave me a week straight of 125 milligram injections. So that's what I had to deal with. I take prednisone, Pantro plus something for my stomach because of what the prednisone does to your stomach. I take a vitamin D. I'm supposed to be taking calcium, but I've been too cheap to go buy it, and hopefully I'm getting it in the milk. And then she told me later on, after the injection, she told me that she sees that I have a case of Stills that's, I guess, one of the most severe she's seen. And so she was like, well, I want to try you on methotrexate to see, how your disease reacts to that, see how your body reacts to that, and things of that sort. And when she was talking to me about methotrexate, all I heard was two things. All I heard was chemotherapy, and my hair was gonna fall out. And I was like, whoa, I'm 27. I don't want my hair to fall out. And, I know, shallow, but whatever. You got to make it light as a situation to make the best of the situation. So she starts me on methotrexate and take it. I take my methotrexate. I have to say that for another video. But yeah, so I'm on methotrexate, and I take another pill because I guess methotrexate makes you vulnerable to some type of what's that thing called? Man, I'm talking like somebody here. It makes you vulnerable to some type of other sickness, pneumonia. So I take a I can't even think of it right now. The medicine affect my memory too. But I take another medicine that's supposed to prevent me from getting pneumonia, along with I take an antibiotic that's supposed to prevent me from getting, the pneumonia, amongst other things. But and then I also take folic acid to make sure my hair don't fall out. But no, I take folic acid to basically counteract the side effects of the methotrexate. But yeah, that's basically my story. And right now, I feel like I'm doing decent on it. Only thing I hate, when I first got diagnosed, I was like 210, and now I'm 250. So that's the only thing I hate, is the weight gain from the prednisone. And I know people say, the prednisone doesn't put weight on you, it's you that puts the weight on you. But hey, whatever. You say what you want to say. You don't go from 210 to 250 in a matter of months without, some assistance or whatever. I didn't change the way I ate. I didn't overeat. I didn't do nothing crazy. I did the same stuff I did. I still work out. It's just not going nowhere. My face was not this chubby at first. But like I said, feel free to comment below. I will be adding another video, just keeping track of what's going on. Like I said, I'm getting weaned off of it now. I'm on 25 milligrams of prednisone, and I'm hoping that with me coming off of it, my face slims back down, and the workouts that I do actually start to work, and I can lose this gut, because I'm tired of this gut. It's getting on my nerves. But I'm here for you if anybody else needs support. Comment below, and I'm more than willing to be a support system to anybody. I know how tough it was for me, being a single dad. It was tough, it was hard, but I don't have control of it, but I feel like I got it more in control than what I had at first. So any questions, comments, please let me know. And again, I'm signing off. It's Jay, and everybody else dealing with Still's disease, good luck, and I'm here for you.